Hi, my name is Letitia Jensen. I am a reporter with the Willamette Week, and I am doing an endorsement interview with Representative Chris Gorsuch and Justin Huang. If you don't mind, Justin, introducing yourself.
Hi, hello everyone. Well, my name is Justin Huang, and I am running for State Senate in District 25. And I'd like to first start off by saying thank you for everyone here today for giving me an opportunity to giving me an endorsement interview. And I'm a first-generation Korean immigrant, and I'm a local restaurant owner called Joy Teriyaki and Joy Poke.
Justin, how many you ran? I think 2 years ago. Is that right?
Yes, in 2018.
And you at that time seemed to have an extraordinarily large restaurant empire. What I know, obviously, I'm not making light of the COVID situation, but tell us about your business now.
So during the COVID-19, of course, we were in the very serious, very critical financial situation because I didn't laid off any of my workers at the moment, and then I just wanted to keep their jobs. And we are slowly closing down some of the restaurants, and of course, we don't have any drive-throughs, so we're having a hard time to do all these to-go orders. And I don't know if you know, we have a poke restaurant as well. We sell Hawaiian poke, and we serve raw fish, and then they're not designed to do a lot of to-go orders. So we have closed about 3 or 4 restaurants so far, and then I sold quite a few restaurants as well. So
before, at its biggest, how many restaurants did you have?
We had 24 Joy Teriyakis and 4 Joy Pokes and 2 ramen restaurant, which is we didn't even have a chance to open it. We are finished with our constructions, but we couldn't even open it.
So you had 30 restaurants. You had 28 plus 2 that didn't quite yet open.
Yes, and then
are those all yours, or do you have other investors?
No, I sold. So me and my family started, and then we have sold about maybe 10 to 12 restaurants so far. But we're not franchised. We don't charge any franchise fees or anything. We just sell it to our other people who wants to have a restaurant, and then only thing they have to do is buy the sauce from us. That's the only condition.
Yeah. And so just to finish your bio, could you tell us about your level of civic engagement, whether you've been part of any committees or organizations or nonprofits or anything like that?
So I started with Mount Hood Community College Foundation Board, and then I've been with the Mount Hood Legacy Hospital Foundation Board as well. And so as I'm a member of Gresham Rotary, Gresham Chamber, and Korean War Veteran Association. And I've been volunteering, serving homeless at the place called Their Pantry for past 3.5 years. And I think I was at the point where this should be enough. My wife was yelling at me, start getting involved. So.
Yeah. And Justin, how old are you now?
I am 35. I am turning 36 in December.
Okay, great. All right.
Representative
Gorsuch.
All right. Well, good morning, and really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I am from a working class family in Southeast Portland. If you go back further, you can see that my mom's side, they were Oregon Trail immigrants. If you go back to my grandparents, they were Ellis Island immigrants that came from Slovenia. My dad was a machinist at Crown Zeller Back, which used to be in West Lynn. I don't know what it's called now. It's a new incarnation. Went to Catholic grade school and then to public high school, where I did some sports, cross country and track. I was an Explorer Scout when I was 16. I would later be a reserve police officer when I was 19, a cadet, and then a reserve full police officer when I was 21. And then later was a full-time police officer when I was 22, and I would be there from early 1980 until the end of 1987. After my time at the Police Bureau, I decided to go back to school. I had done my initial 2 years, took more than 2 years, but I had done my initial 2 years at Portland Community College in criminal justice. And so I'd always wanted to complete my college degrees. So I went back to school at the U of O and got both a bachelor's in political science and geography and a master's in geography. While I was there, and when I went back later for my master's work, I served on the Episcopal Campus Ministry Board. I was one of the members of that board. At my graduation from the U of O, I went to Portland State. At Portland State, I was working on a degree in urban studies, which they have a very fine program there. While I was a PSU grad student, I did a lot of things as a graduate teaching assistant. And one of those included being basically the operator of what was referred to as the Senior Adult Learning Center. This is where seniors could come and still do come and audit classes, and I believe it's still no charge. And so I was the coordinator for that. I also did a research internship for the city of Troutdale during that time. Since '96, I've been a teacher at Mount Hood Community College. Since '97, I've been a part-time teacher at Portland State in geography. At Mount Hood, I teach criminal justice and geography, as well as trying to do not just in-class stuff, but community education, since we're a community college. And so I worked with the United States Forest Service back in 2008 and was able to create the Salmon Festival, which was a replacement for the scaled down thing that Metro used to do at Oxbow Park. So I probably because of COVID, we won't be able to do it this year, but since 2008, I've been joined by people like Ed Edmo, who's a local Native American writer and speaker, and the Forest Service to put on this event, free event for people there to learn more about the environment and salmon. Every year we do an annual presentation on domestic violence during October, which it is now Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Every spring we do an annual campus cleanup, and then every May we do a Police Week candlelight vigil, which is important in recognizing officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty. I've also spent time as a youth group leader, both at All Saints and at St. Luke's Episcopal in Gresham. Served on the vestry there for a small time, and was a Troutdale City Councilor back in the early part of this century. Been in Senate District 4, or not Senate District, State District 49 since 2013, and I'm also on the Sandy River Watershed Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My first question for you
Yes.
is, why are you running for this position as State Senator District 25? And we'll start with you, Representative Gorsuch.
Okay, so I can tell you that in the time that I've been in the legislature, I've had an opportunity to pass a lot of what I consider to be very important bills for people in my district and across the state. Hopefully you can tell from some of my bio that public service has long been an important aspect of my life. And even when I worked in the private sector in retail for Fred Meyer, that was still, in my mind, kind of a public service sort of activity. Certainly the folks that are working in those stores today are very important and part of the heroes that we talk about in terms of COVID-19. So I've done a lot of public service out in East County. Worked on a lot of things that have benefited the county. As I said, we have managed, for instance, to change the strategic investment plan, which used to only benefit the Hillsborough area, but it now makes it so that the incentives that we can put out for businesses in East County are on an even playing field with Hillsborough. Also worked on some transportation projects, bless you, and in fact helped to improve the Troutdale interchange at Frontage Road. But you know, we also know that, as you all know, working families are in crisis. We've done as much as we can to push things like the employment division to help folks that are in need of support. All of my colleagues in the legislature have been working on that for the most part. But we also have to do more to improve that system. And so I hope to be part of the solution in terms of getting the computer systems and getting the people and everything else that we need to make that system work. We also, and I hope to do this too, work on more support for small businesses and help people that are unemployed to get employed. And I think this has to be one of our main focuses going forward, is helping with this because of all the problems that have come up from COVID. So I hope to work on all of those things, and that's what I'm running.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up on that quickly?
Yes.
Representative Gorsuch, there are a lot of members of your caucus in the House who have been frustrated over the period of time that you've been in the building, that they would send progressive legislation, or what they perceive to be progressive legislation, to the Senate, where it died.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if one of your aspirations in trying to move to the Senate is to shift that, or has that not been a frustration of yours?
No, it's definitely been a frustration. I think sometimes our House members are a little caustic about the Senate. I hear the same thing in terms of the Senate talking about us. But I think that there has been some frustration in terms of some of the bills that we had hoped to pass. And so I do hope to work with folks over there on both sides of the aisle to make things move a little more smoothly. Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, you have significantly less governmental experience. Why are you running for this position as Senate District 25?
So one of the main reasons that I'm running for the Oregon State Senate is because I believe this is the best way to make a balance our state, and it is important to ensure things are equitable for all the community members. And there's a few things that left behind in our community, which is so I'd like to highlight 3 things about my platform. The first one is higher education, because I like to see more investments into our East County, especially I went to culinary school. It's part of a trade program, and it was heartbreaking to see when Mountain Community College had to cut 7 trade programs due to lack of funding. And then all of these programs can let our future generation to learn their skills in less expense, and which can help them get on the family wage jobs. So I like to put every resource I like to put every resource we have out there to bring those trade programs back to our community. And the second one is I like to talk about the renters and landlords, which is kind of related to COVID-19 recovery, which is we need to have more legislation to be passed that allocates state funding to landlords for the money they are losing at this moment on renters not being able to pay their rent. So then, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my computer just blanked out. So we should give some credit to our landlords, so then the landlord can use those credits towards to our renters who is not able to make those payments. Because I'm a renter myself and commercial too, and I have been getting calls from many landlords demanding rent payments, but we are in very difficult situation that it will take us a long time to be recovered from this pandemic. So that legislation needed as soon as possible to get everyone put on foot. So that's another one. And lastly, I like to talk about the racisms, and as a person of color, the movement we are in across the nation on racial injustice is a conversation we all need to have. And we should have this over the years, and not only in the election year cycle. As a Korean immigrant, I have been strong advocate for immigrants, and especially those that are people of color. And 80% of my workers are people of color. And while well, thank you Representative Gorsuch, to try to put a lot of legislature for introducing a bill on police brutality, but they have had a one-party rule over the last decade and never passed any police reform that would improve racial inequality. And I know what does it feel like to getting bullied just because of their skin color, and because their accent. I still have an accent, and so I know what it's like to be a person of color. And that we need someone who understands what is the real racism in America. And I think it will take a person of color to address this systematic racism in Oregon as well. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question is, what is one of the main issues that is facing East County that you would prioritize in the first session? And we'll start with, oh yes.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
You're good, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think, so I started with these 3 platforms, but while I was talking to the voters on the phone, I think a lot of people has a fear that they might get evicted from their homes. And then we definitely, like I said earlier, like we need to provide more assistance for renters, so then they feel safe at their home and that they can peacefully can go to their work.
And what about you, Representative Gorsuch?
And could you restate the question? You're a little hard to hear.
Yeah, my question was, what is one of the main issues facing East County? That would be the first thing that you would address in the next session.
Well, I think Justin's right. We have to keep working on issues of racism. In terms of East County specifically, it would be something that I've already been working with Commissioner Stegman on, and that is the extreme poverty that we find in East County. We've had some work done in terms of economists evaluating Multnomah County, and what they have found is that west of essentially the 82nd I-205 corridor is doing very well, whereas our area east of there is not doing well at all. If you were to split us off as an independent county in East County, we would be, I believe, either the second or the most poverty-stricken across the state. And so we're trying to bring more resources and assistance, and that's something that I hope to keep working on. And this includes other services too, like transit, which something that I've worked on for years. TriMet is not exactly providing the same sort of service that it provides in other parts of the city. And when you have very, very poor people, transit becomes extremely important.
My next question, we can start with you, Justin, is this is a question we ask everybody, but how can you demonstrate independence from your party when making decisions?
So I've been always in the place where I had to make a decision as a owner of multiple restaurants, and I've been always not making myself decision without bring the expert on the tables or talk to my workers. So I think I have learned the skills to bring in the conversation and bring everyone on the table to what is good for everyone for my decisions. So if I elect, I use the same skills to listen to. I think the first step is being a listener. So I think I'll be listening to all my community members, and if I need to bring the experts on the table and to make a best decision for everyone.
So if I could follow up on that, Justin, the leader of your party is President Donald Trump. Do you support the president?
Donald Trump, I have to see another debates, but I've been supporting a person by policy to policy.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of what you said.
So I've been supporting past presidents for policy to policies, and then I haven't take a look into who am I support this time, but I have good things about Joe Biden as well, because I have met him 3 years ago when he was at the Portland doing the speech. So this could be a little difficult too, but at this moment, I haven't made my decision yet. But I haven't voted. I didn't vote for Trump last year, 4 years ago.
You did not.
I did not.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Letitia. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. And the same question for you, Representative. How could you remain independent from your party when making decisions?
Well, first off, let me tell you that when you have to differ from your caucus, it's an important decision to make. I don't make those decisions lightly, so I don't go about looking for things that I can try to undermine. That said, I have had to vote against my caucus and vote or argue against certain bills that they were supportive of. And if it needs to happen, it needs to happen. A couple of examples of that. We were in Natural Resources Committee. This bill came up regarding being able to build in tsunami zones. And this is something that the legislature had been prohibiting, I believe, since about 1990. So this bill comes along, and it was being pushed by people on my side of the fence and also on the Republican side, and leadership was allowing it to move forward. And I very much lobbied against it. I spoke against it on the House floor, much to the chagrin of some of my colleagues. And we actually did get, my office got some recognition in the New Yorker magazine about being able to stand up against being able to stand up against building in these very, very dangerous zones. If you look at the science on that, you really don't want to be building in those zones. It's extremely dangerous. The fortunate thing is we don't have tsunamis every day, but when we do, we have the potential to have very large ones, especially with the potential for the large subduction zone quake along the Oregon coast. There was another bill that was desired by both sides of the aisle and pushed forward by my leadership that was basically interfering with the delisting question around wolves. The concern was if we did legislation that would interfere with a lawsuit that was in process. I argued against that bill as well, because it was not something that we should have interfered with when that process was going on. Another one, surprisingly, this one really surprised me. Leadership allowed a Native American mascot bill to go forward. I argued against that. If you know the social science on these sorts of things, it has an extremely negative impact, especially on children of people of color. And I stood up and read a very powerful letter from one of my Native American supporters about not being a mascot. And then finally, the other one that stands out was my opposition to the most recent version of the PERS bill. And that was something that I had to go very much head to head with the Speaker of the House. And it was a difficult argument, but I was willing to do that because I thought there were better ways for us to approach it.
Shifting gears a little bit, you have a background as being an Portland. You were an officer with the Portland Police Bureau, from my understanding.
Yeah, I was a reserve officer first, and then a Portland police officer full-time from early 1980 till the end of 1987.
Going off of that, how would you grade law enforcement's response to the ongoing protests that came after the death of George Floyd? How would you rate them on A to F?
And having been in law enforcement, this does give me a unique perspective, especially since I've been teaching about law enforcement issues for a long time as well, since '97. The first thing to say is that I believe that any peaceful protest is something that must be protected. So Black Lives Matter, environmental concerns, all of these things, the peaceful exchange of ideas and exhibiting your displeasure with something, that's a First Amendment right and it must be protected. As a police officer, I know that trying to manage those sorts of events are difficult, but the one thing that I don't understand is that there seems to have been a fair amount of inappropriate, aggressive responses by the police, and this is the federal folks that were here, as well as agencies like the Portland Police. Excessive use of force is never okay, and certainly not against peaceful protesters. So that's something that needs to stop. I think that we can do better, and a lot of it is that we need to return to what we were doing in the 1980s, which was the concept of community policing.
So from A to F, what would you say?
Oh, in terms of the overall response?
Yeah.
I would say probably D.
And Justin, what about you?
Would you describe the question again, please?
Absolutely, yeah. How would you grade law enforcement's response to protests this year, ongoing protests after the death of George Floyd?
Okay, I totally agree with Representative Gorsuch. I am supportive of all this peaceful protest, and but one of the thing is, so I have a restaurant in downtown of 4th and Morrison. I have a worker name. His name is Andre, and they were closing the door, coming out from the restaurant, and then we were surrounded by a protester, and then we have a police report too, and then he got jumped by 7 other realtor, and he was soaking the blood. One of the guys pulled out the gun and grabbed his wallet, grabbed his cell phone, everything, and we rushed to over there, and then there was a police officers not too far away because 4th and Morrison is just right there when everyone was protesting. But only respond, we went there, we talked to the female police officers, hey, this is what happened, can you guys help? The answer was, sorry, we don't want to stress the situation. Only thing you can do is file the police report. So my worker was struggle for like a week, and he's from Vermont, and he ended up going back to Vermont. And I totally agree. We need to prevent using these deadly weapons towards our peaceful protesters, but at the same time, we need those protections for our workers and then business owners. So cutting the defunding of police is not in my agenda. I think we need more resource, but by putting out training programs for those police officers to do their job in the right way.
Right.
So my rates for response to the protest from the police department is C.
Thank you. And wrapping up a little bit, I just have, if you could both briefly tell me why we should endorse you over your opponent. We'll start with you, Justin.
Okay, so I have had a chance to head a Willamette Week endorsement 2 years ago as well. I think Willamette Week and the paper, characters of the paper and my characters are very similar, and we're sharing a lot of common things together, I believe. And then I know Willamette Week is always advocating for those racisms, and I think we need those to fix those racisms going on, systematic racism. We first need a BIPOC to first be elected leadership position, which is relevant. Will be great, helpful to show people what kind of person I am, since we're sharing a lot of common things together.
Representative Gorsuch, if you could answer the same question, why should we endorse you over your opponent?
Absolutely. Well, I think that my record of public service, which is lengthy, is a strong indicator of what I will do if I'm elected to the Senate. I've been working on a lot of the issues that we've talked about today, whether it's homelessness or affordable housing, law enforcement issues. I've passed some important legislation that was designed to make sure law enforcement was doing the right thing when they were interviewing children when they were in custody. I've also been involved with several dialogues now with folks like Commissioner Stegman, Sheriff Reese, the district attorney, and trying to have a dialogue about what's going on and how people are feeling. And in those dialogues, it's also not just us, but it's people of color who have serious concerns about law enforcement and about racism in general. And I fully support that. I think the way that we move past all of the problems that we currently face is to go back to community policing and to have these open dialogues, which I think is sometimes lacking in other parts of the metropolitan area. So I'm working on those things, and I'd like to keep working on those things and try to make things better for people. And I hope that people will vote for me in November.
Thank you. And we asked this to Justin already, but if you don't mind us asking, how old are you?
How old am I? Yeah, 62.
Thank you. Nigel, do you have any questions before we get to our final fun question?
No, please proceed.
Awesome. So we always ask a fun question at the end of these interviews, just to kind of get to know you guys on a more human level. And it is, what was your most awkward Zoom call that you've had this year? And we'll start with you, Justin.
I don't know. So I don't really have any fun effective while on Zoom call. I play piano, so I think it's just good memories, because my wife is in school in Spokane, and then on our anniversary, I played the piano to her through the Zoom, and I think it's not fun, but I think that's the most romantic thing I ever done in my life.
Thank you. What about you, Representative?
Well, and this is an ongoing thing. And Zoom's a wonderful thing, and it's allowing us to do campaigning and do meetings and all of that. But we're at home, as you all know. And unfortunately, we have two dogs, a small one and a large one, a German Shepherd. And most of the time, like today, I've been very fortunate that there have not been any squirrels in view of the dogs. But especially my German Shepherd, I'll be in the middle of talking on a call, and she is then going to interject the emergency to everyone on the call about how terrible it is that these squirrels are in our yard. So it's an ongoing thing, and it's just part of the current life that we lead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.